Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, we're catching up again with Trey Lawrence, CEO of the AAO, to dive into legal updates, including social media risks and the FTC's focus on endorsements. Plus, we'll get an inside look at the AAO's tech transformation, major changes in the social media strategy, and what's in store for this year's annual session. Spoiler alert, it's going to be big. So let's jump in. This episode was brought to you by My Ortho VA. Hey docs, is your team overwhelmed by endless admin tasks? Let My Ortho VA throw you a lifeline. With expert HIPAA-trained virtual assistants specializing in orthodontics, My Ortho VA helps streamline everything from billing and insurance to phone support and reporting. Right now, over 100 VAs are supporting 58 practices nationwide, cutting staffing costs by up to 60%. No onboarding fees, no long-term contracts. Just a simple, cost-effective way to transform your operations and focus on patient satisfaction. Brace for growth. Visit myorthova.com to interview your next best hire and align your practice for success. Hey docs, it's that time of year again. AAO 2025 is just around the corner and we can't wait to see you in Philadelphia. Jill Allen and Associates will be at booth number 2250, so be sure to stop by. Whether you're new and looking to connect, an industry partner, or a friendly face from the past, we'd love to catch up. And since this year's theme is the biggest party ever, we're kicking off things right with an exclusive happy hour sponsored by Provide, the leader in tech-enabled financial services for aspiring and established healthcare practice owners on April the 24th. Great people, great conversations, and the perfect way to start AAO in style. Spots are limited, so you must RSVP. But listen, guys, the fun doesn't stop there. Join us at our other co-hosted events, the Celebration Party on Friday and the Mary's List Party on Saturday. See you in Philly, and remember to come by and say hi at booth number 2250. Hey, I am so excited to have you on Hey Docs again. Thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah. In the event that maybe somebody did not listen to our last podcast or has not somehow come in contact with you through all the social media feeds or whatnot, would you mind talking to us just a little bit about yourself, your new role at the AAO, and what you've been up to since we were last talking?
Yeah, absolutely. For those that I haven't met, my name is Trey Lawrence. I'm currently CEO for the AAO. That's a lot of letters in a small space there. CEO for the American Association of Orthodontists. So I've been in that role for right at a year now. I've been with the AAO for almost 7 years in total. So most of my time at the AAO prior to that was as general counsel. So I'm a lawyer by background. Went to law school, 18 years at a big law firm based here in St. Louis before I came to the AAO. So previously led the AAO's legal and advocacy teams in the general counsel role. And then in the last year as CEO, obviously I lead all of the staff teams at the AAO, have a public face to our membership and serve in that role, and then work with our board of trustees and the House of Delegates on all things AAO related. It's been a fun transition. I'm still doing a lot of the same things I'm doing some of the same things I was doing as general counsel. I think part of the board of trustees thinking and selecting me as the next CEO was because advocacy is such an important piece of what we do as the AAO and a benefit of being an AAO member. And I think that was a way to demonstrate our organization's continued commitment to advocacy. So I'm still doing a lot of those kind of things. I just came back from the AAO's Professional Advocacy Conference in DC, had about 160 folks or so meeting with members of Congress, and members of Congress coming to our reception and interacting with them and talking about things like student loan debt and direct-to-consumer mail order orthodontics. I'm still doing a few resident legal courses, so that's a great opportunity to talk about some of the kind of legal information that we're going to cover today, share that with the residents at their programs, but then doing a lot of other things too, a lot of other areas that I hadn't interacted with as much. So certainly our international membership was a part of that. I've gotten to go to Greece last year for the European Orthodontic Society and interacting with many more of our international members than I had previously. Our educators was another group that I had worked with some, but not as closely. So I'm not an academic whatsoever, but getting up to speed on all of that. And then I had worked with outside organizations quite a bit in my advocacy role before, but really taking that up another step. Obviously, the ADA, the other dental specialty groups, the Academy of General Dentistry has been a big friend of the AAO lately and helping us out with some advocacy efforts. The ADSO, recognizing that a lot of our members are now working in those settings. So lots going on.
Yeah, you are a busy guy. Thanks for taking time to be on the podcast again for us today.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's just jump into one of the things that you just highlighted that you have been doing, and that's updating the resident legal course. And I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about that. And I want to jump in more on that social side a little bit and what it means to be aware and maybe concerned about posting or commenting on ortho cases in social media groups, and maybe just some of the bigger mistakes that you are seeing doctors do, because I feel like it's such a big part of what we do is to put ourselves out there socially. And I think sometimes we just forget that we have to be cautious too. And who better than you to give us the scoop on what we need to be aware of?
The lawyers can always be depended on to bring the clouds of gloom and doom and scare everybody.
Well, better to be at least maybe a tad bit scared than go in just totally blind.
No, absolutely, for sure. And that's why we talk about these things. We want, and in so many cases, and this is certainly the area that you just hit on, is certainly one of those. Many times there are not clear answers. So sometimes when we talk about updating the law and making sure our members know about the changes in the law, sometimes it's because a new law has passed. So, some new section of HIPAA passed, and we can tell you definitively, you can do this now or you can't do this now. Sometimes it's more watching lawsuits that are being filed or even legal commentators saying, hey, this is something that may be an area of concern. And then that can be more frustrating because you're putting questions in people's minds and you don't have clear answers. But I think just being aware of the risk in the first place is the biggest step. And that's what you hinted at. The ounce of prevention is, if you're aware of the risk, then you can be a little careful. So we talk about this wonderful thing of Facebook groups for orthodontists, specifically posting cases, posting pictures, and asking for people's thoughts on them. And I know, as I'm getting ready to tell you all the doom and gloom stuff, that is a very valuable tool for orthodontists. That's very helpful for them to get their colleagues' thoughts on their cases and just get all the input that you can. And especially in a world where if you own your own practice, I hear frequently orthodontists live on a mountaintop by themselves a lot of times. So those social media groups are an important tool. Having said all that, here are all the scaries that have come out lately about doing that. And again, none of these are definitively saying you shouldn't do it or you can't do it. I don't want to get my good friends, Dr. Fagala and Dr. Teeters, and some of the ones that run these groups, I don't want them getting upset with me, but it's just some things to think about. So a couple of the issues are definitely HIPAA related. So I think a lot of times when orthodontists post pictures and ask for thoughts in these groups, they think they're relying on the other consulting doctors' exception to HIPAA. So HIPAA says you can't publicly disclose patient information. There is an exception if you're working with other consulting doctors. I think there's a big question, though, about whether somebody it's not like you're engaging the oral surgeon down the street that you work with frequently. So I think there is a big legal question about whether members of a Facebook or other social media group like that are consulting doctors. The easy way around the HIPAA issues is just to properly de-identify the pictures, black out as much of the face as you can. Certainly just posting a radiograph of just the teeth is much safer than posting patient pictures. Sure. That's a whole nother subject, is how to properly de-identify a picture. But I think many times orthodontists posting in those groups think they're within the consulting doctor exception, and they may not be. Even if they are, though, there's another legal issue about, are you guaranteed that nobody but doctors are looking at those posts or seeing that information? You don't know. The administrator of the group may say we only admit doctors to this group, but you're relying on their word for it. You haven't verified that yourself. Obviously, even something like it is a doctor that's on the other end looking at it, but their spouse or their kid or somebody is peeking over their shoulder at home. Those are all areas where you can't 100% guarantee. And there's hacking too, the potential that somebody just hacks their way into the group. So there are a number of situations where it may not be only doctors that are looking at that information, even if they are consulting doctors. So those are the HIPAA questions. As if that wasn't enough, there are a couple of other issues. One is related to state licensure. So let's post this scenario where I'm an orthodontist and I'm in St. Louis and you're an orthodontist. In what state are you currently in right now? Okay, so you're an orthodontist and you're in Colorado. So I post a case asking for advice on my patient who's here in St. Louis, Missouri, and then you, being a Colorado licensed orthodontist, get on and share your thoughts. I think there's a strong legal argument to be made that the person sharing their thoughts is then practicing dentistry within the state where the patient is, because any of these questions about state licensure are always based off where the patient is physically located. So does that mean that the doctor who's offering comments needs to be licensed in the state where the patient is located? I don't know the answer to that question. I haven't seen where a dental board has taken action on that, but it is very conceivable that a state dental board at some point could look at that question. And then one final other fun one is in any kind of a malpractice situation. So I've posted information about a patient of mine and asked for thoughts, and then I get sued by that patient for malpractice. One of the questions that the patient's attorney is always going to ask me as the doctor is, tell me everybody that you consulted with on this case. So then if I've posted the case on a Facebook group, I have to list that Facebook group, and then that gets into this whole new category of discovery. Is the plaintiff going to want to know who all commented on the post? Are they going to want to know who's registered as a member of that group? And then the other question that they were probably going to have for me is, if I did get advice from somebody in that social media group, they're probably going to ask me, what did you do to verify the qualifications of that person to give you advice on this case? If I'm consulting with a periodontist that I work with all the time, obviously I know their qualifications and I could give a response to that. But if it's somebody I only know through a social media group, I probably don't have as good of an answer. So there's all the scaries. Again, because there's no clear answer here, it's a risk-benefit analysis. And I do think our members get a lot of valuable information, but you need to be aware of those risks and then maybe be conscious of them as you're posting responses, or try to minimize those risks as much as possible. I wish I had a handy checklist to say, here's the 10 things you can do specifically to do that. And I don't. But again, I think awareness is probably the first step.
Yeah, absolutely. And gosh, again, where we're at now is even so different than even just 10 years ago. And I think it takes us back to why it's convenient to have these online groups. It's nice to have just this kind of open group where you've got all these different people, but boy, it sure makes you think, should they be in closed groups? Or even going back a little more old school, where we truly had in-person study clubs where you had a group of peers that you could really sit down and talk to. So a lot to chew on there and think about. And as you said, I think the first step is just being aware. Everybody's going to take their own fall in that, where's my risk tolerance level? And some people are a little farther out on the edge, and others are like, yep, that'll be the last time I put anything up in a group. And everyone's just got to find that out. But I appreciate you bringing this. And this is why every time you're on, I just am like, this is so good, because it is so hard to get good information. And again, sometimes it's even just the rumor mill out there. I heard this, and at least we can get it right from somebody who's intimately working in this area. That takes me to my next one. I'm just going to keep you on the hot seat this whole this whole morning here. I know you've been talking a lot about the FTC and how they have really been putting more emphasis on disclosing compensated endorsements. And I'm wondering if you can break that down. Talk to us a little bit. Does that apply to us in our industry? Does it not apply to us? And just what does that mean? And if it does apply to us, how do we think about staying compliant within that kind of realm there?
Yeah, so short answer is it absolutely does apply. And this is another area where the law itself hasn't necessarily changed, but the enforcement activity has significantly picked up. And I'll get into a couple of reasons why here at the end of my answer to your question. So the basic underlying law is the FTC many years ago took the position that an advertisement, so when I'm talking about advertising, I want practices to think this is not just like a paid advert, like a commercial. This is social media is the big one. Any marketing, basically. But the FTC's position is an advertisement is misleading if there is a connection between the endorser and endorser of the product or service and the one that offers the product or service. And the connection can be either direct payment, so actual payment of money, or giving anything else of value. And that's where I think the significant applicability to what practices do frequently is. So an advertisement is materially misleading if there is that kind of paid or gift type of relationship between an endorser and the offer of the products or services, unless it's disclosed. So we'll break those elements down. So if you're flat out just paying somebody for positive testimonials, positive Google reviews, 5-star ratings on Google, all of those kind of things, that clearly would fall in this. But the giving something of value, I think, is where practices more often do that, because I see all the time where it's leave us a 5-star rating and maybe you get something. Maybe we're giving some free at-home tooth whitening kit or something to everybody who leaves us a review, leaves us a 5-star rating. Or the other one that I think practices might not instantly think about is eligibility for entry into a drawing if you do those things, because there's still economic value. Now, even if I only have a 1 out of 100 chance of winning the iPad or whatever is being raffled in the drawing, there's still the economic value is 1/100th of the iPad. So again, if you're offering those things to patients in exchange for a review, a rating, any of that, then you need to disclose it. Now, obviously, you don't have any control over what the patient does on their own. So you don't have any control over what is or isn't disclosed in the Google review itself. But what you do have control over is when you use those in your own marketing. So I've seen frequently where people will take screen grabs of Google reviews and then they'll put it on their social media or they'll put it on their website. Obviously, if you're using the patient's testimonial or you record a testimonial, any of those situations where you're using it, if you gave them anything of value, then you need to disclose it. Now, disclosure, what does disclosure mean? The FTC doesn't have definitive guidelines on it. What they have said is it has to be reasonably capable of being found and understood by the consumer. So it can't be little tiny microscopic fine print at the very bottom of the least accessed page on your practice website.
If there's white on a white background.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So whatever it does or doesn't mean, it definitely does not mean that. It has to be something that somebody's reasonably likely to find. So then the one other piece, and this gets to the enforcement, this is one of those things I think sometimes when I talk about it, because I've gotten the question is, okay, that's probably true, but is it really a big deal? Who's going to catch me? And there are two places. One really sounds like Big Brother, and then the other was just a reality of life. The Big Brother one is the FTC and many of these other federal government agencies have gotten much more sophisticated in their use of AI to scan the internet. And so there were a couple of HIPAA cases out there within the last few years where practices were disclosing too much patient information. Dental practices were in response to online reviews. And these were discovered through the use of AI scanning the internet. And so that can catch likelihood. I can't say, but that can catch anybody anywhere. If you're online, then that can find it. So that's one source. The other source is that anytime a patient has a problem where they go talk to a lawyer, the patient may not be educated in FTC law and HIPAA law and all of those kind of things. But when they go talk to the lawyer, any good lawyer is going to instantly get on your social media and look at everything. They're going to get on your website and look at everything. And so even if the patient's complaint is maybe a clinical issue, the more stuff they can get on you, the better their leverage is for you to successfully resolve the situation. And they will definitely bring up any HIPAA violations they find, any FTC violations, any of those other things.
Sure. Ooh, that's so good. So I've got a question for you. So what I am hearing is it's not necessarily wrong if we are incentivizing. It's wrong if we are not disclosing that we are incentivizing. So let's just say I happen to have one of those docs out there but I really love to, and I'm okay to even put it out there that give us a 5-star review, get $50 and a gift card. As long as they are putting that even just right on maybe where they're asking for the review, that they are going to be incentivizing that patient, give us this, you'll get this, then that is okay. Is that what I'm hearing? It's just when they do not do it that we run into issues.
Correct. Yep. That's exactly it. Yeah. You could pay patients $10,000 a piece to leave 5-star ratings or whatever. And that's totally fine if it's disclosed, but you have to disclose that you're paying patients $10,000 a piece or give some indication. Obviously, again, because the disclosure has to be reasonably capable of being understood by the patient. It's not that you necessarily have to say the exact dollar amount, but it needs to generally reflect. If you're giving something that's fairly decent value, it needs to reflect that.
Okay, good. I think, again, like you said, it's better for us to know these things and go in eyes wide open, and if we're going to put it out there, let's just bear it all and be upfront with it, then run into, like you said, issues where they're lurking our social websites and be like, aha, we got you here. And I just thought that was a really interesting point that you made as far as here AI has been such a hot word in our industry. How do we use it? We're not the only people out there using AI. And I think that's just kind of mind blowing to think about. Why wouldn't a government agency use something like that? They're going to cover a lot more ground really quickly, for sure.
It's the same ways that AI can dramatically increase the efficiency of your staff within a practice. It can also dramatically increase the efficiency of staff within a law enforcement agency.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So we've talked about two good and big important things out there on the social side of things. Let's talk about it from the AAO side now. So I want to switch gears a little bit.
We'll get away from the scary stuff and turn back to the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. As my grandson calls it, the baddies under the bed. Grandma, I'm gonna go look for the baddies under the bed. We're gonna get rid of talking about those guys, and we're gonna now talk about maybe some lighter things.
And now a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Hey docs, if you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Greyfinch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
So I want to talk a little bit about the tech transformation and AI that's going on within the AAO. And I know you're playing a big role in that. And I'm wondering if you can just share with us what is going on, what are some of the updates and changes that you guys are really working on to maybe help orthodontists, new and existing ones, interact better and with the organization.
Yeah, the most frustrating thing from AAO staff side that we ever hear is I didn't realize the AAO did that. So for instance, if we have somebody has dropped their membership and we contact them to find out the reasons why, and they name off 2 or 3 things that they wish that we did, and we're not doing supposedly, and we do all of those things. So communication is such a key, and the challenge is that every day we progress, orthodontists, just like everybody else in society, are buffered with so many communications. You get so many emails, you get so many messages everywhere that there has to be a way to cut through that clutter. So that was a big driver behind this tech transformation project, is using modern cutting edge tools to help become more efficient in those communications. So last year at the 2024 House of Delegates, they set aside $3 million for us to engage on this project. There's really 2 pieces of it. There's the not sexy part, and then there's the sexy fun part. The not sexy part is that all of the AAO's core IT systems, our association management software, our learning management system, and our financial management system, were all at or past the end of their lifespan. They needed to be replaced, where you get to where updates are no longer coming out, all of that.
Yeah.
So that's no fun. Certainly, that's a very important thing on the staff side of making sure that we're efficiently helping our members. But I know that's not the fun piece for our members. But what that also does is, in replacing those systems, that helps us to create a common data platform, which is taking all of your data that may be all over the place in a million different places and getting it all into one central location. And why that is so important is because data is what drives all of these fun AI functions. And so then the AI functions are really where the members will see a difference. Big element will be personalization. So every way that you interact with the AAO as a member, when this is all done, will be personalized to you. So when you get on the AAO member website, it will be exactly like Netflix and Amazon, where your front page will be very different from somebody else's front page, and it will be based on your history on the website, the CE that you've taken, the webinars that you've registered for, the CE that you've taken at annual session. All of those things will help us create a profile for each member of where their interests are.
That's great.
The email communications will be very similar to that. So instead of having to send one Friday e-bulletin to every member that contains 5 or 6 stories, and you may only really be interested in one of them, you will get a targeted email that might only have 1 or 2 stories, but they will be things you will definitely be interested in. So we think that's going to be a big way to help us cut through the clutter. Another thing that AI will do is, when you get on the member website, if you need help finding something, you start to be able to incorporate all these bot kind of technologies, these bot assistants that can help you. So instead of you having to search for something yourself, you just tell it what you're looking for. It will get you that you can do that with questions about your member status. I don't remember my member number, or I don't remember if I've renewed yet this year. We'll help all of that. We'll make those interactions much quicker. So I think the end result is going to be a much more personalized, streamlined experience, where it's not nearly so much that we need to develop new products and services for our members. We just need to make sure that they know where to find them and can use them and know what's available. And I think all of this will do that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And the hard part is, as I think for any of us in any business, is there are times where we have to almost go backwards to go forwards. And as you guys are talking about updating technology, yeah, that is the total unsexy side of doing business, right? When you have to be like, oh, we got to spend how much money and we got to go in there and really think about it. But in doing so, what does that do for us? And I think that's a really exciting thing for members to know that you really are going to be able to have a more personalized experience. You're going to be able to probably navigate things. It's going to feel more up to date just in general. So I'm very excited that you guys are doing that and excited to see as it all comes to fruition just how much easier it's going to be for all of the members to really be able to navigate that. And like you said, maybe even have their eyes open to the fact that, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this was here and I've got access to these really amazing tools.
Definitely. Definitely.
So as we get to the end here, I just have just a few more questions, as I could just keep like picking your brain, but I'll just have you on again so I can pick your brain a little bit more. But I do want to just finish up with just talking a little bit about social media. And we started off that way and I'm going to finish up that way. But I'm wondering if we can stay on the vein of AAO, if you can talk a little bit about what you guys are doing there and from an education standpoint to maybe just a social presence. Can you give us some insight into that and what members and potential members could expect to see coming that way as well?
Yeah. So this dovetails really closely with what I just talked about, the communication issues. And as I've had, excuse me, about a year or so to sit in the CEO seat now and take inventory of things, I really landed on that our social media presence is probably the biggest area of need that we need to beef up. There are a lot of things that we're doing and continue to strengthen them, but as far as starting something almost from scratch, it's social media. And the reason, I don't need to tell anybody how important of a tool social media is in communication, just the way that orthodontists, when they don't have their orthodontist hat on and they're just consumers and they're interacting with companies they like, social media is such a big tool in that. And we have an amazing marketing team at the AAO, and the things that they do a phenomenal job with the playbook that they've been given, but the playbook sections on social media were really in need of some updating. And that was a staff position. That was a staff capability that we had never specifically hired for. So all of that together is two steps to what we're doing right now to start with. That's updating the playbook. So what does that look like? I think there's some even just basic foundational things like currently AAO only has one social media identity on each platform. So all of our news for our doctors, all of our information for consumers or patients, it's all going out on the same channels. So if I'm a patient and I get on the AAO social media and I see a bunch of posts about some geeky doctor meeting thing, I'm gone. I'm not going to follow. I don't have any interest in that.
Right.
And so I think separating those out, I think that the different platforms yield themselves better to different applications. To me, TikTok seems like an obvious one for patients because you don't need the networking capability so much, but the kind of the mass broadcast factor of TikTok would be perfect for our consumer awareness. So I think I think taking some steps like this will greatly increase the efficiency of our communication with our doctors. I think it will also we've got some great consumer awareness messaging already. The campaigns that we've done over the last several years have, whether it's talking about mail order orthodontics or the last campaign, which was the science of smiles and why you should see an orthodontist for your orthodontic treatment. It's incredible content, but if it's getting in front of patients some now because we're doing a lot of paid through Facebook and those kind of things. But again, having our own dedicated channels to just consumer patient information, I think will help that. And then a big piece of that too, like I said, is we have never hired somebody specifically with capability in that area on staff. And so we're in the process right now of finding social media strategist, content creator, all of those roles. And then one other thing I think that this will significantly do is members always talk about advocacy and consumer awareness, education being the two biggest benefits being an AAO member. But I think that kind of that community aspect even though that's not a specific AAO member service. I think that's a huge reason that people become AAO members. And I think having a more robust social media presence where there's more interaction with members and more sharing of their content and discussions going on in the comment section, all of those kind of things. I think that's going to really bring that community aspect to where you're not just experiencing it in an annual session or local constituent meetings, that's kind of it's going to bring it into the 21st century and really enhance the members' experience of, I'm truly a part of a community of orthodontists. And then one final thing is, I heard many people say along the way, people don't connect with organizations, people connect with people. And so I think through a lot of this too, we're going to present a much more personal face of the AAO. Another thing I hate is that big blue kind of impression that the AAO is this amorphous thing out there, where that's not what it is at all. It's members. I hate when people get online and gripe about stuff and they say, oh, the AAO is doing this and the AAO is doing this. If you're an AAO member, the AAO is you. And I think people lose sight of that. So being able to present a much more personal face of the organization, really conveying that the organization is our members. I don't think the grammar was correct there, but that piece of it, I think social media and a revamped social media presence is going to do that as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like you're the right person for the job to help bring this home and spearhead it with everybody that's running under you there.
Yeah, I have dipped my toe. I've dipped my toe in the social media world enough to know what complete failure feels like when you post something and 17 people see it or whatever. So I hope that experience that I've learned along the way will guide it. And conversely, I've also seen the benefits of social media through my Instagram efforts, being able to connect with residents and members that I would have never met at an annual session or somewhere, but you get to know them well through social media. It really does re-emphasize that communal aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. As we finish up our talk, I think let's just finish it up. You've just been giving us so many little pearls about what is happening. And I have to say, I am super excited and to see all of this transformation that's coming. And I think this is exactly what the organization needs and what the doctors who are a part of it need as well. AAO 2025 is right around the corner. What can we expect out of that? And if somebody wants to come up and get a selfie with you or talk about anything, what's going to be the best way to do that?
All right. So annual session 2025, in the now immortal words of our current president, Dr. John Callahan, it is going to be biggest party ever, as he's saying everywhere. But there is some method to that madness. Again, going back to that communal aspect, certainly world-class CE and educational content and interaction with vendors and suppliers and all of that. That's a given at an AAO annual session, and we're going to continue to do that just like we always have. But we also know from the surveys, from talking to members, that communal piece, the networking and the interacting and seeing your classmates from residency and dental school and all of that is just more and more, when you ask somebody what the number one reason is you go to a meeting, that aspect of it is part of that. And we want to make sure absolutely that we're fostering it. So we're going to continue the world-class CE and exhibit hall and all of those things, but we are really stepping up the party, fun, interactive part of it. So anybody who's gone to annual session in the last year or so, I think when New Orleans with the street party and all of that, I think, you saw glimpses of that. And all I can say, I can't even say exactly what all is coming, but more of it. Cool. There's going to be a Friday night of annual sessions, basically going to be party night. So we've moved our keynote, who is a very well-known person. I'm contractually limited on how many times we can say the names. But if you want to know who it is, just go watch the most recent Summer Olympics, and
you'll know.
Biggest name you saw there was who's going to be there. But we've moved the keynote to the afternoon. So it's going to be a David Letterman late night talk show style, super fun session with our keynote as the main guest during that. And then we're going to go right from that to the alumni receptions that members always enjoy seeing their former classmates, and then go right from there to the street party, which is also the Reading Market takeover party. So food, music, all of those things that you saw in New Orleans, just more of it.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. And we're excited to be sponsoring that. So that's going to be a super fun thing in conjunction with you guys there. All right. So as we finish up, what is the best way if somebody wants to get a hold of you guys, maybe talk about any of these topics that came up, maybe legal advice for their practice, just anything? What's going to be the best way that they can do that?
Member website is always the first place to stop for any of that, knowing a better one's coming. So stay tuned. I know some of the limitations on the current one, but it's still the best place currently to either find the information or the contact information, phone numbers, email, all of that for all of our staff. So definitely check that out at aaoinfo.org. And then personally, I'm always happy to share my email, cell phone, all that, but probably the easiest way is Instagram. So it's at the Orth Attorney, Orthattorney, and lots of fun stuff about legal things there, but also always happy to interact with our members on any AAO related questions too.
Yeah. And Trey, that again is just why I so appreciate what you're doing in this space. And I can say, as a friend too, I know that you truly do care. And I've been able to put my clients in contact with you. And it is literally just, hey, I just want you to just get in front of Trey or get in front of his team. And I really appreciate that you guys are always literally a text, an email, a phone call away to help doctors out when when things are happening and you just need to have somebody in your corner. Thanks for doing that for us.
Oh, absolutely. Orthodontic, the community of orthodontics is a pretty amazing community.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're offering service back that's reflective of what a great community it is.
Yeah. If you remember from last time, the way I like to finish up Hey Docs is with a little speed round. So are you ready for the speed round challenge?
I'll tell you once you fire the questions at me, but let's give it a shot.
All right, here we go. What is one business trend you think more people should be paying attention to?
Oh, it's got to be AI related. I've seen some really amazing ways that here's the thing. I think the barrier to entry on AI solutions is coming down so much. It's getting so much cheaper.
Yeah.
There's so many more producers. So some of the like concierge type bots that I've seen recently are just mind blowing. Where now it's not just typing in a chat box. Now they'll actually talk to you, and they talk and sound like real people. So I would say for all the workforce shortages and everything, people really need to leap on some of those trends. I think they're much more approachable than a lot of people think they are.
Yeah, for sure. What is the most unexpected lesson you've learned in your career?
Oh boy.
Ooh, I know. Good one.
Yeah. So all of the much more grumpy, fun ones would be from the legal days. Probably. Okay. So I won't say his name, but I had a practice area leader of the big law firm I was at for many years, who was a former military guy, just every stereotype of the old curmudgeon-y lawyer that you could possibly come up with any movie ever. And I took a brief in to him one time and had worked on it literally all night probably and thought it was really well written. So he sits there reading it for what seemed like eternity, not saying anything. And then finally, and then he puts it down and a long pause. And then he says, "Son, there's an awful lot of adjectives in this." He said, "Go back and read." But then as I went away, I realized he meant write in verbs. Make your writing, all of your communications action oriented. That ended up being a very valuable lesson, but just the delivery and the way he said it and the pregnant pauses and everything was probably the most painful comment I ever got on anything like that. But yeah, it's always, but I do try to do that even with our members. I don't want to tell them about things we are going to do. I don't want to tell them about my opinion of things. I want to give them facts and tell them what we're doing. And then hopefully it's good enough that they judge on their own. Hey, yeah, that's a worthwhile thing. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's great lesson. All right. What is one industry challenge you think will shape the future of our work?
I am a little concerned about, talking about all of these tools that increase efficiency. I think the amount of patients that somebody can physically see over the course of a day is just increasing exponentially. In many ways, obviously, that's a great thing because it increases revenue per butts and seats and all of those kind of things, all of those metrics. Obviously, we want people's practices to do well, but I worry about the capacity of the human brain to keep up with so much information. And so when you start getting into going from the good old days of 40, 50, 60 patients a day to 80 patients a day to 100 patients a day to 120 patients a day, on the doctor side, I worry about the ability to really keep up with all that information. On the patient side, I worry about losing a little bit of that personal human element that I think has really made orthodontics stand out so much over the years.
Sure.
Like I was just having a conversation with Dr. Callahan and a couple of our other more senior doctors who were talking about how many people that they treated have gone on to become dentists or orthodontists. And it's because they just had such an amazing experience in the practice. They said, this is what I want to spend my life doing. And so I want to make sure that we don't lose that, because that's such a, as opposed to general dentistry or so many other places where you go in and have one procedure done and you're out the door.
Sure.
That is what makes orthodontics incredibly unique, but there has to be a certain amount of doctor patient interaction to give that feeling. And I don't want to lose that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right. And as we finish it up, if you had unlimited resources, what is one big idea you would bring to life?
Cool. Oh boy. That last time we did this, the questions were much more discreet. These are like solve the world's problems. Okay, I'll recency bias, since I was just on Capitol Hill for 2 days talking about student loan issue. I don't know exactly what it would look like. I don't know if it would be free dental school and orthodontic residency education, but if I had unlimited money, I would sure make it to where when orthodontists graduate from residency, they could go practice anywhere they wanted to, in any setting they wanted to, or teach or whatever, without having to give any consideration for that massive student loan debt number that haunts them everywhere they go.
Yeah.
That's just such a limiting factor, I think, for those new graduated residents picking out what they're going to do. I'd love to have all the money in the world to throw at that and alleviate most of that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you again for being on Hey Docs, and I'm excited to see you at the AAO. And of course, I'll have you on again, because I can always come up with more questions for us to talk about. So thanks again, Trey, for being here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
We did it.